let's start this podcast by analyzing what are the positions of the planets. A real quick global analysis of what are the astrological energies this month. Okay, so let's make a global astrological and numerological energy analysis for this day. This is going to be, as of now, mid-July 2025 in the sidereal whole sign perspective. So now, as of July 15, the Sun is at 28 degrees of Gemini. So the collective consciousness seems to be focused on communication, mobility, adaptability, and mental processing. So a lot of mental energy right now, especially air signs. Air signs like Gemini, especially Gemini, then Libra as well. And every one of us right now is really our spirit of mental spirit. Our communication mind is really heightened as of now. This is the tail end. 28 degrees is the tail end of Gemini. So this is like a crisis of completion, or we're going through a place in which the Sun has been going through Gemini, and we kind of are in a crossroads towards being a little bit more individualistic with the Leo energy that's approaching right now, right? So we could see a lot of data overloads or things in the social network being overflowed, saturated, or we're saturated of media, for example. You could also, some people could be detaching from social media, and others could be escaping through social media. The beginning of this Pisces season, the tiny Pisces season in the moon, highlights our emotions. So I think a lot of people is going to be using social networks or their minds, or focusing on things outside of their minds or in their minds. They're going to be probably thinking a lot or speaking a lot, mostly thinking a lot. Maybe a lot of people is tired of social media, or they're being overusing social media, like they couldn't sleep recently, kind of being focused on things that are superficial, and the integration or of things like emotions and dark side of things, Then in numerology, for the Sun in the 28th of Gemini, we have the 28 as of today. Remember that this is as of today. This is 28, so it's like a start. It's 10, which is an ending, and then a start. Okay, so this speaks about people ending this Sun in Gemini 28. So it's like receiving like the fruits of our labor, and especially in mind. So it could be the culmination of certain plans, and setting them in action as well, independently, probably mostly independently. It doesn't have to be, but in the individuals, there is a lot of focus on getting what we want, kind of, and what we want is not, obviously it's emotional, but there is a lot of focus in the mental part of it. Then we have the moon in Pisces, which is a 0 degrees of Pisces. So this is like this is a fresh emotional cycle that begins in a very watery spiritual realm as Pisces. So globally, people will probably feel disoriented, especially those that are not so connected with their emotions, and very emotionally sensitive. So it's going to be very difficult for people that need to work on their emotions, especially. And it's going to be probably very soothing, very peaceful times for people that are very connected with the Piscean energy, the watery energy, those that can swim through the emotions. So there could be also a longing for transcendence with heightened empathy or feelings, like intuition. For people that are not used to deal with these kind of energies, it's going to feel a little bit scary, overwhelming, kind of. And for others that are more used to this kind of energy, it's going to feel more potent, or where people is going to be really facing some difficult emotions, things that sometimes drown us, probably a lot of sadness when we see something that's not fair, and also a lot of rage when we cannot process the emotions, so we lash out, kind of things. So it's going to be a lot of emphasis on dreaming and on illusions as well, emotional, especially during this time. And in the numerological part of this moon in Pisces, we have 0 degrees, which signals a gateway. So this is like the precise time when the moon has started to influence in a archetypical way to human minds in regards to emotional the emotional world, the unconscious, the subconscious of humanity. So this is like a new karmic terrain. Is not something that most of you will like. Some of you may intuitively know that this is coming in a certain way, and others would actually wouldn't know, and it's going to be like a little shocking. And well, it's Pisces moon, so there's going to be mass increase in dreaming, in lucid dreaming, for example, and an increased spiritual vulnerability as well. So a lot of people is going to be really focusing on dreams um, during this time, especially during this week. Mm. Then we have Mercury at the 20 degrees of Cancer, which is, it speaks about how our mind is going to be working. So the communication is going to be very emotional, sometimes defensive or protective, like emotional or neglectful, defensive or protective, loving, and home oriented. So it's going to be a lot of focus on our countries, our groups, our friends, our families, something that we choose as family. In the global sphere, we're gonna be expecting news around national identities, families, food, and ancestral memory, like a lot of sense of belonging. It's gonna be a lot of focus on emotional and of the family area, and especially thinking about the family and dreaming about the family, kind of thing. There could be a rise of nostalgia, propaganda, or emotionally manipulative communication as well. So we have to be mindful of that, especially in the bigger sphere, because remember that we live in a duality of a world. Then we have the degree 20, which is which speaks about partnership, diplomacy, but also dependency. And then we have the 2 and the 0, which is very karmic and is related to what we did, or is really karmic, kind of. So it's something that God really wants us to see. It's going to be strong in maternal countries or water linked regions like islands. All right, so a lot of emphasis, as I said, on emotion and protection this month, this part of the year. Then we have Venus in the 17th degree of Taurus. So Venus is powerfully dignified here. Venus at the 17th degree of Taurus. Earthly love, sensuality, money, food, beauty, and stability are highlighted during this time. There's a craving. People is going to be craving for security in resources and real world pleasures at the same time. Globally, markets might be favoring natural goods, art, and comfort. Especially, this is very interesting because Bitcoin just reached 123,000 yesterday. I think it was yesterday and the day before. So from July 13 to the 14 and 15 today. Now I think it's like in around 17,000. So the numerology of displacement is 1 plus 7, which is a karmic number, one being often tied to hope, inspiration, a long-term goal, long-term love. One because it's like something that started intentionally and now is kind of like a result and something that's more spiritual, more sensual, more intellectual than physical. So I think it's very related to internet, for example, but not in internet especially, but something that's not so tangible. Okay, it's intellectual or more intellectual property, things like that, not so tangible, but we can see it. Maybe like intangibles, like the financial markets, kind of like the NFTs, all those things. Then we have Taurus Venus rules agriculture, the body land, could possibly have a global focus on food sovereignty and land ownership as well. If it is not about land ownership, it's obviously related to value that we seem as safe, secure, as ours. And then we have Mars and the 21st degree of Leo. Mars here is bold, dramatic, and performative. Mars in Leo, well, today is a very harsh time in regards to confrontation. Like a lot of people is acting focused on themselves, and as the Sun in Gemini is coming to an end, it's obviously speaking about how people is going to be exerting this energy as well. Global leaders may be acting from ego or pride, which is the case, we know, right? Both creatively and destructively, okay? And it could be military posturing, like people wanting to, show their strength through military actions or at least propositions. Yeah, something that at least propositions. So, like, especially through collaboration, because of the 21st degree, collaboration through leadership as well. It could be. So it's going to start in a leadership position. Then we have political declarations or cultural spectacles as well to demonstrate strength. Then we have the numerology of displacement, which is 21. 2 plus 1 equals 3, which is expressive, youthful, often theatrical, So this is about how leadership is going to perform, very expressive, very regalistic, and very abundant. It also speaks about words or pride. People wanting to exert their wish, their intentions, and wanting to highlight over other people, through their power, especially through their action power, the power action that they have. Wait, hi. Then we have Jupiter at the 13th degree of Gemini, which speaks about how we will be expanding our mental bandwidth. Speaking about global travel, trade, education, and transport systems, it's going to be highlighted. It's going to be growing and growing. So I think this Gemini season was very fruitful and very successful for a lot of people that's been focusing on travel, trade, education, and transport systems, but also in regards as Gemini is a dual sign, it's also especially difficult for people that have been trying to do that as well, because the sun is in Gemini. So it's a little bit bittersweet kind of placement here. So global travel, trade, education, and transfer systems may undergo changes or grow more complex. More complex things could be happening this month. Then we have Gemini, which is multiplicity. So Jupiter here disperses rather than concentrates. So it's very interesting how apparently there's going to be a lot of um, Gemini energy, but also a lot of people acting through Leo. So very individualistic, the same Gemini. So I think it's going to be communicating, but exerting our own individuality. The numerology for this placement is 13, which is transformation through testing, um, and karmic tasting, like, oh, we did this and it didn't work, so we had to change it. 13 is actually the number of the death in tarot cards, in the tarot decks, is the number of death. So it's also something that goes speaks about transformation, things that didn't work out, gotta let it go, let them go. Theology's media platform or truth. So Gemini speaks about duality, the truth versus fake. So East-West tensions and media polarization could be very highlighted during this time. And we have Saturn retrograde at the 6th degree of Pisces. 6th degree being speaking about harmony, responsibility, compassion, but also fear of imperfection. Saturn in Pisces again in retrograde. So I think it's a lot of people in the um, leadership and those that are in charge of the structures of humanity are going to be thinking back to the things they did in the past, karmic consequences from past spiritual bypassing or escapism. So this placement, Saturn retrograde at the 6th degree of Pisces, speaks about dismantling illusions, major collective karmic cleanse of religions, spiritual institutions, systems of sacrifice or martyrdom could be breaking down, like people that go through victimhood and things like that. Then we have Uranus at the 5th degree of Taurus. So I think it's going to be very dynamic, even though it is in Taurus. So we have 5, which is chaos, experimentation, and restlessness, disruptive influence on Earth-based Taurus systems, which is money, financial. So it's going to be a little bit chaotic. Something fun, sometimes not so fun. Uranus and Taurus is speaking about AI in farming, crypto in housing, shock in supply chains. Then we have Neptune retrograde at the 7th degree of Pisces, which speaks about collective illusions that are being revisited. Faith, dreams, media, and spiritual beliefs may undergo spiritual review. There may be oceanic concerns like pollution, mass confusion, or spiritual awakening. And the numerology of displacement, which is 7, speaks about spiritual testing, introspection, and mysticism. And the fact that it is retrograde, Neptune retrograde, is speaking about fears and fantasies, especially globally shared ones like myths, media, idols, conspiracy theories. A lot of people is going to be speaking about conspiracy theories this month, apparently, in these times, apparently. Then we have Pluto retrograde at 7th degree of Capricorn, 7th again, which speaks about a massive restructuring of governments, economic systems, and authority that continues. It's not over yet. Pluto is retrograding Capricorn again, and Pluto retro is dismantling all silently, often behind the scenes, especially because it's in the 7th house. 7 again, which is inner revolution. Capricorn is states and hierarchies. Possible signs could be collapse or secret transformation in leadership, finance, or big structures. Like some things that don't go well, poop kaput. Then we have the true node and at the 24th degree of Aquarius, which speaks about collective karmic direction that pushes towards technology, community, innovation, and rebellion. Aquarian themes, which are decentralization, humanitarian concerns, and radical change. speaks about how there is a pull toward global networks, activism, and unconventional alliances. With the number 24, which is 2 plus 4, that equals 6, harmony speaks about harmony through collective progress. This speaks about how the future belongs to the crowd. The AI ethics, which yesterday I saw new about how in Denmark, people is going to have um, intellectual property over their face and their voice, like their bodies and their voice, how they look, the universal rights global movements. And in this 24, so it's like a building of this kind of energy. Then we have the ascendant 13 degree of Aquarius. So again, 13. This is the phase of the moment. We are globally showing up as visionaries, rebels, outsiders. How we begin things now is through the lens of innovation, future thinking, and perhaps emotional detachment. We have double Aquarius emphasis, Age of Aquarius accelerating themes, collective awakenings as well. Then we go with the midheaven at 16 degree of Scorpio, which is at the global career and authority level. We see a push into a shadow work, ooh, transformation, and deep strategy. People are going to be kind of push through us to these things. Scorpio at the top means governments may be engaging in covert operations, power plays, or share resources negotiations. So it speaks about how Neptune is actually, I think it's a little paranoid energy this month. Then we have 16 in displacement, which speaks about collapse of ego or higher purpose, like an ego death kind of thing. Is the Tower in Tarot as well. So there is going to be a shocks in leadership of global image that's going to be very compromising for them. Then we have the Black Moon Lilith at the 17th degree of Libra, which speaks about how the collective unconscious is grappling with shadow around relationships, justice, and beauty. There could be a rage against injustice, misuses of charm or aesthetics, and issues around fairness in partnerships. Hidden power struggles in peace efforts, diplomacy, feminism, and in the legal systems, of course. Then we have Chiron at the first degree of Aries. So obviously, aggression and dominance is being very hurtful for mostly everyone during this time. Okay, global identity wounds are raw. Nations, people, and individuals feel the pain of not being seen, not being allowed to act. There is potential for healing through courage, independence, and warrior spirit, which is very dangerous sometimes, when you lash out from your wound as well. But it's quite sad, actually. So the numerology of displacement is the number 1, which speaks about the birth of the self, the initiation of the healing process as well. Healing of, for example, not being able to act, not being able to do whatever we want, and not being able to exert power, which is tied to violence, leadership, and obsession. So I think these days, this middle of the month, is very dangerous because people, when they're not actually facing and focusing their shadow, they're not doing the shadow work, they're gonna probably be doing a lot of harm out of wounds. Then we have Ceres. Ceres had the 19th degree of Pisces. So the Earth Mother is in spiritual waters, which speaks about how nurturing comes through forgiveness, dreams, and music, but also confusion, loss of clarity around what truly fits us emotionally and ecologically. And it's 19, so it's a lot of karmic numbers in this analysis today. And we have Pallas retrograde at the 26th degree of Capricorn, which speaks about wisdom and strategy, which are being reviewed within structures. Governments, corporations, and legal systems are rethinking how they protect or fail society. And obviously, people are thinking and strategizing and speaking about how those systems work. Then we have Juno at the 21st degree of Libra. So it speaks about themes of equality, sacred union, and fairness in committed partnerships, which are rising now. Globally, alliances may be formed or tested around balance and shared values. Justice movements could carry a relational undertone. We are at a karmic tipping point globally where all institutions with Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn energies are collapsing or being restructured, while Aquarian and Piscean energies in the ascendant, the North Node, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Ceres dominate. The age of Aquarius is no longer theoretical. It's expressing itself through digital revolutions, AI, space tech, and community uprisings. But we must also grip the past. So this time also calls for releasing illusions and ground the future in real Taurus values, which is the earth, peace, food, and body wisdom, well being, you know, and not the excess and escapism of the Piscean energy. Transcend the illusion to rebuild the world. And we have to be watching out for technology ethics, water and food systems, which have been very, very damaged because of huge flash rains around the world, like literally around the world. Spiritual authority as well, media narratives, and relationship power dynamics.